From thatching to stonemasonry or metalwork, Britain's master craftsmen were central to every aspect of life. Down the centuries, their workmanship has defined the fabric of this country, from the grandest cathedral to the simplest of tools.
What you've got is medieval thatch, which is not just interesting in itself, but the details of it.
There are still guardians of these crafts working today, who are dedicated to taking the long tradition of these skills into our modern world.
I'm going to rotate it round, keeping the bevel on the work.
In this series, complete beginners with a genuine passion to learn will be given an intensive introduction by some of these experts. How does this compare with the sort of pace they have to go at?
Remarkably slow.
Right. But can a complete novice master even the basic elements of the craft in a short space of time, however intensive?
If the work's wrong and not fit for purpose, as it were, it'll have to be removed.
And will they have acquired the skills to make something that is both beautiful and useful?
It's a real honour, really, to be able to lay a thatch on a piece of history.
For around 7,000 years, man has cultivated a number of grasses as cereal crops and gathered the seed or grain to use for food. But at the same time, they've grown straw, which the grasses have borne the heads on. And this is the basis for one of our very oldest traditional crafts, because the straw is the raw material for thatching. I guess that everybody's idealised vision of rural Britain would include a thatched cottage. But from thatch covering well over 500,000 homes in 1900, that figure is today just 50,000. And where at the turn of the 20th century, thatching employed a workforce of around 50,000, now there are under 1,000 thatchers left in the country. I'm on my way to Oxfordshire to meet two of them, Matt Williams and Dave Bragg. They've over 25 years of thatching experience between them and are passionate about keeping the heritage and tradition of this craft alive. I've got a special interest in thatching because about 30 years ago, when I was in my early 20s, I wanted to be a thatcher. And I had a friend who was a master thatcher who said he would take me on as an apprentice. And I fully intended to do it, but he said I'd have to sign up for 7 years because it would take about 4 years to train and then another 3 years to get some value out of me. And I just felt I couldn't commit for that long. And life took me in other directions, but I've always slightly regretted that. I think I would have loved it.
Shift some of this. This is going a bit deeper in here.
Matt and Dave's current job is on an 800-year-old cottage near Witney.
Hello.
Hiya.
Right.
Rethatching normally happens every 20 to 30 years, and the thatch on this roof is more than ready for renewal.
I can smell it. Oh.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's got that sort of slight, fusty, mildewy smell. How many layers are we looking at there?
You've got 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 layers there that I can see clearly.
And what sort of age is that?
If you thought that you had an average of 25 years for a thatch,
Yeah.
it's going to be at least 125 years to get to there.
We're back into Victorian thatch.
Yes, yeah.
That is true. And does that aspect of the history, is that part of the fascination?
You are a part of that continuous line of people who have the same skills. Those skills only still exist because they've been passed from generation to generation.
And do you think it's important that we keep thatching? Do you think it matters?
Yes, I think it does. It's part of our cultural heritage. We'd lose part of the look of our country. You wouldn't tear down Big Ben.
Working with buildings that are part of the nation's heritage brings with it grave responsibility, and it takes an apprentice 4 years to master the necessary skills.
So how do you feel about taking on 3 people for 6 weeks and trying to lick them into some sort of shape?
It'll be interesting. You need determination because it will not be fun at times.
It is an all-encompassing thing. It's a lifestyle, you know, more than just a job.
Our 3 would-be thatchers each have their own motives for wanting to learn and ultimately master this craft. Sam Hare is a painter and decorator and lives with his girlfriend in Dulwich. For him, a born and bred Londoner, this is a chance to swap his uninspiring city grind for a rural life mastering an ancient craft.
That's a major appeal to me, that it is a dying art. It's an art form. I'm going to learn an art form. and hopefully be very good at it.
Kate Edwards builds cob houses and wants to learn to thatch for a very simple reason. She wants to thatch the roof of the cottage that she's building for her and her partner.
I've been thinking about this for 2.5 years. I've been looking forward to the opportunity to thatch. I've been sort of like, oh, I can't wait to get onto that roof.
Colin Wombwell is a roofer, and he lives in Felixstowe with his wife and their 5-year-old daughter. And he's a long-held ambition to follow in his grandfather and his great-grandfather's footsteps.
I would love to bring thatching back into the family, because it's kind of got lost. Now I've got this opportunity to put it into practice and do thatching. It means the world to me, yeah.
A lot of people like the idea, but it really is a certain kind of person that will actually follow that idea through and be able to stick at it.
I've only observed this maybe 4 or 5 times, and maybe my observations are completely, you know, over-romanced in my head.
I'm surprised I haven't had an accident, because I'm just looking at every single thatch roof I go past. You just want to touch it.
They have to look at what we're doing. They have to replicate it exactly. There isn't really any space within a 6-week training course for people to think that they know better than we do.
It's straw at the end of the day. How hard can it really be?
Hello. Hello. Nice to meet you. Well, here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Exciting. Wow.
This is the roof that you'll be working on over the next 6 weeks.
Oh my God.
Excellent.
That's amazing.
Can't wait.
Go on up, have a look at the roof. Right.
Next one along. There you go.
I'm Matt.
Yeah.
The real challenge for these 3 is not just whether they can acquire the necessary knowledge to thatch. That they probably can do. They've got to do in the 6 weeks, but that's just the beginning. The tough thing is whether they're going to find the necessary qualities within themselves to take that knowledge and apply it for years and years to come and use it to transform their lives.
Now, the key to everything we're doing here is going to be persistence. Make no mistake that anything you put onto this roof that we're not happy with absolutely will come off.
Yeah.
But I think there is every chance that by the end of this course that each of you walks away knowing that on this roof there is a part of the work that you have done, and that's going to stay there and work very nicely for the next, 25 years.
During the course, the trainees will learn the fundamentals of thatching. From learning how to bend the hazel spars that keep the thatch on the roof, to packing and blending the straw correctly to ensure that the roof remains watertight. And at the end of the period, whichever one of them manages to master these techniques best will have the opportunity to go on to work on the rethatching of National Trust properties. But before the apprentices are allowed anywhere near a roof, they're first off to Matt and Dave's storage barn. This is where they will begin to learn the process of managing the unruly straw. They start with making yelms, which are effectively the tiles of a long straw thatch roof. Now, it may look to you just like a bundle of straw, but actually to get to that point takes a surprising amount of skill and actually hours and hours of practice.
This is your basic building block of thatch. You've got a top edge and a bottom edge and a sloped face. Now, if that's done well, that face should be at the right pitch so that when we lay it on the roof, that's at the same pitch as the roof. For the roof we're going to be doing, we're going to need about 600 packs of these to be made. Now, if you can make 40 in a day, you're doing really, really well.
We'll just give you a job.
Yeah.
Come on,
We'll see.
Bring it on.
To prepare a yelm, the straw is first loaded onto what the thatchers refer to as a bed. It's then given a thorough soaking to make it more manageable.
Sometimes it's sugar. Basically, you don't want to waste anything. It'll all go on.
The straw is then drawn from the bed and placed as straight as possible on a bench.
This very sort of simple but necessary process has actually begun. And this is the first moment when you feel this is how roofs are put together.
The thatcher then pulls away any remaining tangled pieces and shapes the correct angle of the finished yelm.
So what's interesting is what you're getting on the table is thatch.
Yeah, you have essentially prepared what the roof is going to be. And then to lock that knot off, you just make a loop with your fingers hold it over the knot that you've tied, pull it in underneath, and that's that knot locked into place. And that's your yelm.
Easy. Well, it is when you've done it for years and years. A thatcher in a barn must prepare 40 yelms a day to ensure that a thatcher on the roof can do his full day's work. And as they're just starting out, the trainees are set the initial challenge of preparing 40 between the three of them.
You don't want any of that stuff, do you?
That stuff can come out.
That stuff's all...
In terms of time, how does this compare with the sort of pace they'd have to go at?
Remarkably slow.
Right.
There's lost income if you don't hit your targets, because the thatchers are waiting to have their yelms turn up. If they get a third less yelms than they expected, then they will do a third less work the following day. So it has quite substantial consequences. About 2/3 the weight of the rest of them. Then the next ones you're making, just a little more material in each yelm.
Keep doing the same mistake. It's very annoying.
We've got about an hour and a half left to go, and we're looking for another 18.
Being stuck in a concrete barn all day, preparing yelms, isn't exactly what the trainees had in mind.
I expected it to be delivered on a truck and me be on a roof ready, waiting for the thatch, you know, already processed as we're doing, rather than going through all this.
I do this all day, it doesn't bother me. It's not hard.
I just want to, you know, finish in a minute. Go and lie down.
And that's 40.
I think that's a bloody good effort today. Well done, guys. Well done.
Well done, chaps.
Yes.
Couldn't have done it without you.
Absolutely exhausted. Completely knackered.
It wasn't a hard day's work for me. You know, I can do a hell of a lot more than that.
Look at that. Severe rash. I didn't know it was going to be this hard.
Thatching a roof will cost anywhere from £10,000 to £30,000, depending on the size of the roof. The work is labour-intensive and slow. It'll take fully 6 weeks to rethatch this small cottage, for example. Add to that the surprisingly high cost of materials, £5,000 worth of straw on this job, and you're not left with much room for profit.
You're probably looking at earning £25,000 a year, I suppose. It's not phenomenal. You know, you do this because you love it.
Today, the master thatchers continue working on the roof where our trainees will eventually get to lay some thatch.
That's been stuffed in. You can see it's just there.
But that's weeks away yet. First of all, the old thatch must be cleaned back.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi there. So you strip this out?
We're going to remove some of these rotted down top layers and put back a layer exactly the same way that these are below.
I hadn't realised that you simply added layers onto pre-existing ones. I somehow assumed that rethatching a house involved taking it all off and putting all new on.
I think that's part of the genius of straw thatching, actually. Nothing's wasted. So even when a layer of material is rotted down to maybe only 2 or 3 inches thick, it still has an insulating value in the roof. It still has a value to waterproof the roof.
Even stripping a roof is a skilled operation. Take too much off, and you're needlessly destroying perfectly good work that might be hundreds of years old.
It's absolutely crazy how loose this actually is. You don't actually realise how loose it is. You actually see the process. You've got gale force winds. How does it stay up there?
As Dave gets on with the bit that takes judgment and experience, the trainees work as his labourers.
It's really hard. It's a killer.
Having taken the loose stuff off, Dave has discovered the extent of the wear and tear.
It's getting more and more like soil here. Got some fantastic worms in there. There's thousands in here. And they're just busily turning all that wet straw into like absolute compost, which is what a thatch roof is essentially. It's a controlled compost heap. It's from the day you put it on, it's decomposing. Sorry lads. Well, you guys can move out. Go on.
After 3 hours of graft down on the ground,
I can't get enough oxygen.
Dave allows the trainees to try their hand up on the roof.
What we're going to do, we're going to take off the top layer. Okay.
This is a whole new approach to roofing for Colin.
You've got to be sensitive and gentle with it a little bit.
I'm used to beating up a roof, really.
When you
stripping slates, you're beating the hell out of it.
It may be easy to take off, but there's an awful lot of it. Over the course of the day, the trainees remove around 3 tons of straw. That's nearly the weight of a fully grown elephant.
This is the 3rd load. It's still coming.
1, 2, 3. Oh!
Every bloody time.
Cheers.
The skills that our trainees are learning have been passed on from generation to generation. And as we've seen, thatch on a roof can last for hundreds of years. So layers of history are laid down with the straw, and much of this can be deciphered.
Hey, Monty.
This is amazing. This is extraordinary.
I've come to meet John Letts, a man who treats thatch roofs as historical documents.
We know that this building was built somewhere in the late 1300s, which makes it one of the oldest domestic buildings in the country that has preserved an ancient base coat of thatch.
So this black is all soot from fire?
It is. It's soot that's from the smoke of an open fire that burned in the bottom hall of this building 700-800 years ago.
What you've got is medieval thatch, which is not just interesting in itself, but the details of it.
Yes, even within this wheat then, of course, you have an example of all the weeds and everything that grew in the field, the insects. So it's all preserved in here. It's a microcosm
It's like
of a medieval field.
An Egyptian tomb, isn't it?
It is. And first discovering this, it was an Iceman discovery for me. I was so incredibly excited to be able to hold a medieval crop in your hands.
What is astonishing to the average person is that there is this very precise record of daily agricultural life going back to medieval times.
Yes, and what's beautiful with these old roofs is that there's a chronology of the changes in that history because you're going back layer by layer by layer by layer. I've excavated roofs with 15 distinctive layers. That's a record of all the changes in agriculture and the local environment. They're an archaeological site, they're a treasure trove.
It is extraordinary to think that this reed of wheat was sown by somebody living and breathing on this land, presumably pretty close by to here.
I would think very close, in the village, no doubt. Broadcast onto the open field in 1375.
And I'm holding his harvest in my hand.
You are?
This means that working on an old thatch roof is always a collaboration with the past. And Matt and Dave's commitment to the tradition of long straw thatching in Oxfordshire is ensuring a living continuity. And back at the 800-year-old cottage, this work continues, as does our trainees' education. They've learnt how to get the straw off a roof, now they must learn how to fix it on. It's time to meet the age-old device used for pinning the straw to the roof and the scourge of the thatching apprentice, the hazel spar.
A spar can smell fear from a mile away, so if you go at it tentatively, it'll have you. And we just take hold of one of those and we just give it a twist and make it into a staple that's got a nice bit of spring to it. You should be twisting up a good couple of hundred of these. In some parts of the roof, you might twist 300 or 400 in a day, quite easily. Twisting the spars, I think they might have trouble with it.
For the first sort of 6 months, you'll find it makes your hands bleed.
Can you not wear gloves while doing it?
Gloves?
The principle is easy, just twist and bend.
Ah, hang on. Oh, there we are. No.
But do it just slightly wrong and the wood snaps.
This is so hard.
Rubbish.
Until you can start to get yourself into the kind of rhythm of twisting spars as you need them, that not being a big problem, you know, then you're never going to get very far with thatching.
So Kate's dream of thatching her own roof might remain just that, if she can't get to grips with these spars.
Don't let the spar smell your fear.
Okay.
Okay, I'd want to rotate.
No.
Honestly, as soon as you do the first one, you will just get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
After half an hour's tutorial and endless wreck spars, Kate suddenly gets it.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes, 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 yes. Brilliant.
Okay, let's have a look at that twist. Okay, that's a really nice.
That's a nice twist, isn't it?
It's really
yes!
Having learnt to make spars, the trainees can now start to consider attaching their first layer of straw. Thatch roofs are essentially made up of layers and layers of blended yelms, and these are known as courses.
Now, the point is to get a line of yelms going up, so each yelm blends seamlessly with the next one, and each line blends seamlessly in. And what you have is the appearance that has been described as a thatch poured over the roof.
I'm ready to start actually thatching the roof. Now, this is the most important course you're going to put on. If you've done that wrong and you carry on up, there's only one way of fixing that, and that is to take off everything you've done above it.
The trainees won't be allowed to put a single yelm on the cottage roof until they've mastered the basics on the nursery slopes back at the barn.
Really, really importantly, everything that you put in the roof as a fixing has to be, at the very least, horizontal. You're aiming to have them slightly uphill, so that if water comes through this coat at some point, it's not going to run into your customer's house, because they will not thank you, and you will not be happy when you get a call at 2 in the morning to tell you that the roof is leaking, and they expect you to get out of bed, get your waterproof coat on, and get up on their roof. And that's in position.
Even more important than fixing the straw is how you blend and mix the yelms together.
The whole thing is about getting water to run off the roof. And it's important that I blend these bundles together. If you've got crossed bits of straw in there or tangled bits of straw, what it'll do, it'll cause a little void or a little gap. Once that roof kind of wears back a bit and gets later into its life, you'll find gullies appear. Quite often they'll be where strips join. And you'll find that a gully will run down there. It's because it wasn't well enough blended, well enough joined together.
For something that appears so straightforward, there's already an awful lot to consider. And for Sam, just handling the straw is posing a whole host of problems.
This is a lot more difficult than it looked.
Using their own pre-prepared yelms and spars, it's time for their first attempt at straight thatching.
It's a lot to remember.
I'm not happy with the bottom bit. It's not as even as it should be.
Sam, I think, at the moment feels quite tentative. He feels the least confident. I think that you can see that when he's handling the material, that he's kind of sort of dabbing at it and not really taking control of the straw when it's in his hands.
But for the experienced roofer Colin, this is all a bit of a busman's holiday.
I love it already. It's great stuff. This is going to be waterproof.
Colin, I think, feels incredibly confident in what he's doing. I wonder whether we're going to have to rein him in at some point. I don't know whether he's going to start thinking that he has mastered certain parts of the job before he really has.
There's lots of things that can go wrong. Getting the spars in at the right angle, and the yelms the right way round, and there's lots of things. It looks so easy.
What they're doing today is absolutely the most basic pieces of thatching. And OK, I would not normally expect somebody to master these within the space of 6 weeks, but they're going to have to.
Monday morning, it's going to look a lot better. Start again.
Well, this is potentially a big moment because Matt and Dave have bought this thrashing machine, which hasn't been used for a generation or more. And they intend to start it up now to thrash the straw that they cut to make the long straw for thatching. So the whole cycle from grain to roof should be completed if this machine works. Do you know when this was last used in everyday use?
Well, until combine harvesters have got everywhere and really...
Which was the early 60s.
Yeah, that's it.
And this would have been driven by steam engine originally, would it?
A horse.
Horse.
Really? So you had a horse engine.
As the machine is 100 years old, it's a safe bet that the instruction manual no longer exists. But there is one essential piece of advice that has been passed on.
Everyone we've spoken to has basically said, when you operate this machine, just fully believe that it wants to kill you. How did I get it on?
Yeah.
With a lot of grunting and groaning.
Dangerous or not, I really want to see this up and running. And at full capacity, it can process up to 5 tons of straw a day, which is nearly enough to thatch the cottage they're currently working on.
There we go.
Ah, beauty.
As we don't have a horse to hand, we're making a concession to modernity and employing tractor power to get this machine threshing.
Real steady on that.
It is a lovely old one, though. But there's a problem. The minute we start up, the drive belt keeps flying off.
Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. You're miles.
The whole thing looks very dodgy. Looks as though it's not going to work at all. And so far, it hasn't worked at all. I can see us doing this for another couple of hours.
Hopefully that will stay on now. No.
Time for some lateral thinking.
I'll tell you what, the last time when we ran the drum, we ran it from the other side.
Oh, what the bloody hell are we doing? Just run it from the other side.
And when we ran it from the other, and it was probably just coincidence.
But
we
just
parked
ran.
the tractor up, we put it on, and the just went.
Right.
That's on.
Success. In theory, there's no difference between the two sides, but once moved, the belt stays on, and the threshing machine starts up. It's time to thresh some wheat.
This is a special moment.
It is rather, actually.
Yeah, no, I can see.
Jesus.
For Matt and Dave, this is the final piece of the jigsaw. They can now harvest and thresh their own material, ensuring that they have that vital supply of suitable straw.
A thrashing machine like this now seems to us rather a wonderful piece of history. But actually, when it was introduced at the beginning of the 19th century, it was a cause of really bloody riots. Farm workers would smash these machines up because it meant they would have no work. Thrashing took place all over winter by flail, whereas it could be done in a week or two with this machine, which meant the farm workers had no work over winter, which meant in turn that their families would starve. And the difference between agricultural employment and the brutal fact of starvation was that slim.
Back at the barn, the group have been subjected to a daily routine of practicing straight thatching. Now they're in their second week, and in the light of what they've learned, I wonder if they've changed their views about the challenge they've taken on.
When you started, did you think it was going to be like it has been?
I thought it would be a lot harder than it actually is. Make it sound like it's easy, but it is easy once you've been taught the know-how.
My reaction is when you say it's easier than I thought it would be, I feel, God, you're cruising for a bruising. You know, you're asking for trouble.
Well, it's nowhere near the standard of a master craftsman. But for 1 week's work, I'm extremely happy with it.
Happy with that?
I'm happy with it now, yes.
You imply you weren't happy with it?
Well, Friday was a disaster. I had a bad day Friday. I was very tired and it was a complete mess. We've just got to the stage today that I'm really excited about, which is the shaping. Because I'm not really meant to have done that bit yet, but I've fiddled with that little bit. Because it's
You've been curving, haven't you?
I'm not meant to do that.
Right.
And I'm just in heaven with that. That's the bliss. For me, that's the whole reason for doing it, is sculpting it.
Do you feel competitive about this?
Yeah, I do actually.
Do you?
Yeah, it comes across me in waves.
How have you found the wheat?
Hard. Harder than I thought it was going to be. It's just the finish, you know. I'd like to get it dead straight.
Perfection is either going to be the making or the undoing of you, isn't it?
I know, yeah. That is my biggest enemy.
Yeah.
Perfectionist.
Well, they still seem fully committed, but their work is about to be publicly judged for the first time. Matt and Dave have concocted a simple test to answer a basic question about the trainees' first efforts. Will it keep the rain out?
Go on in. Where's Sam? You see, you're standing back. Come and face the music. Come on, be responsible. Yeah.
I'm a little nervous. I mean, I've spent time and sweat and blood on this.
The point of this red food dye test is to show exactly where and how the rain will get in.
It's very... Oh, look, that's coming right down there, isn't it?
How deep should that reasonably go?
I mean, we're going to look for kind of ingression just on this bit of a kind of like 1 inch or 2.
Okay.
You see how far down you've got, if I open it up now, you've got food dye in, in here.
Yes, yeah. Oh, it's right in there.
It's got in a ways.
It's gone in about 4 inches.
Yeah. Like the surface of that has got a kind of fluffy surface initially, but there should, just under that surface of kind of loose look, should be a nice dense coat.
This reveals that Sam's practice course is letting him water because he hasn't packed enough straw onto the roof.
Perfection?
Total confidence.
OK, go on.
Total confidence.
Right.
You see...
Colin has got a different problem.
Right, we've got food dye right up there. You've got a kind of a drip coming from here somewhere, and it's obviously getting in and then running down the stem on the way out.
He's failed to blend the yelms together tightly enough, leaving little gaps that the water can run down.
Basically, over time, you'll end up with just a gully, and that'll just rot down.
Yeah.
Get that heavy drip.
I mean, what's interesting is it seemed to come off that quicker than Sam's.
When you put your hand on it, that's dense. Now, Sam's, you could have got in probably 2 to 3 inches before you got that density. This has actually been packed in very densely, and it's made a really nice, even, thick coat. So I must admit, I did have my suspicions that this might work quite well.
I was worried I was going to be the worst, so for mine to shed water the best was a complete shock, and I was obviously really pleased.
The roof test was a bit of a nightmare for me, because I got my thatch on there perfect. It was lovely. I thought, yeah, I won this one. And when it came to it, I had that gully in there.
Colin was a bit gutted, I think, because he was fully expecting his to be by far the best.
In the end, there's only one way to master a craft. Practice, practice, and more practice. The trainees are still a long way from being able to work on the cottage roof, and with time marching on midway through the second week, Dave ups the ante.
What do you think to that course?
I think it's horrible. Right. Dave can be quite vicious when he's pulling your work apart.
Get control of your material.
Nowhere near good enough. Can be so stressful and so annoying and so soul destroying.
Would I let that stay on a roof? Would I let that stay on a roof? Take it on. Keep control of everything, yeah?
If I don't think I'm going to be able to do this, then, you know, it's a dream that I'll have to let go.
Don't ever put anything on top of something that ain't right. I'm not here to make friends, I'm here to make thatchers. So I'm really, really getting on their case.
To the untrained eye, all thatch is just thatch. But the different landscapes of Britain dictate different styles of thatching and materials. So, for example, Matt and Dave thatch with long straw, which is native to Oxfordshire.
In arable growing areas of the country, straw was the preferred thatching material because it was a byproduct of the crop. But where there's no crops and where the land is low-lying and wet, then reed becomes the perfect substitution.
So I've come to the wetlands of Pembrokeshire to meet Master Thatcher Alan Jones.
Found you.
Greetings, hello, good to see you.
I'd love to have a go cutting it. Let's have a go.
Alan uses water reed as his material of choice, mainly because it's right on his doorstep. He also continues the thatching tradition of harvesting his own material.
It's very popular.
Yeah.
You know, you can thatch a lot faster with water reed than you can with any of the straw varieties. Once you've done what we've done, you know, cleaned it out, tied it up, that can go straight on the roof.
So no yeoming?
No yeoming, no pitching out. It's a doddle. It's really fast.
Whereas in the past, the thatch on your roof was sourced as locally as possible, today the chances are that your new thatch roof is no longer from the same county or even the same country.
There's a lot of imported water reed coming over, to be honest, yeah.
Where from?
Well, some of it's from China, some of it's...
You telling me that houses in Britain are being thatched with Chinese reed?
Yeah, some of it's actually quite good reed, which is a bit worrying, and some of it isn't, you know, but, I mean, the carbon footprint is a bit scary, isn't it?
That can't be sustainable.
The obvious thing would be to restore some of the derelict rebeds that are in everybody's backyards, you know, and use our own. Because if we forget home production, if we lose the knowledge, then we're in trouble as an industry.
Deep trouble, but the key thing you said there is losing the knowledge.
The same with straw. To harvest a local produce and not lose the knowledge, hand it down, is a sensible way forward.
Thatching is vital. One, because it celebrates differences, local differences, differences of material, differences of style. And two, because you have men and women recreating the skill and handing it on and keeping it alive in a really pertinent way, who are passionate about it.
It's now the halfway point, and although the apprentices are still struggling with straight thatching, Dave is forced to forge ahead with their training, introducing them to the more difficult skill of gabling, which is the fixing of straw onto the corners and edges of roofs, while continuing to blend it in seamlessly with the straight strips.
So essentially, when we get to like the vertical edge of a roof, which is the gable or the barge, we can't just thatch straight up against it like we do a straight strip, because you'll have that edge of a strip showing. So what we have to do, we have to turn the straw onto that gable. We'll start at the bottom, and this is absolutely vital that I get a good amount of material in that corner, because one of the things that happens when you turn straw, you're fanning the straw out to from straight, you're fanning it to 45 degrees. So it naturally wants to open up. So to actually get density in there, you've really got to work and make sure that you keep that. That should be as dense as a straight body of thatch. It's kind of stepping it up, that extra kind of level of kind of thatching skill.
And once they've turned the straw,
Gentle cut, gentle cut.
it's time for them to learn how to use a barge knife. This has a 3-foot-long blade and is still the most effective way to trim the gables evenly. And when they've cut the gables, the eaves are tidied with a careful trim.
For a first attempt, it is very good.
This leaves them awaiting instruction on the final skill that they still have to learn.
Lay that on top of your ridge, along the apex, and this is what gives you a straight ridge.
The potentially painful process of ridging.
Oh, careful, careful.
Good. Cool. Way.
Hey.
Soon, our trainees will have the chance to add their layer of history onto the 800-year-old cottage roof. But first, a dry run. This may look like a confused bus shelter, but it's actually a bar, donated by Matt and Dave to the village fete. Now it needs a proper thatch roof.
There's a bit of pressure on us, because whatever you produce is going to be a reflection on our company as well.
Now,
I don't want to pile the pressure on, guys. Do you know what I mean? But it'd be really nice. It'd be really nice to see this come out, you know, looking beautiful.
What I want to see is how well they work as a team to create one thing, because we don't often work on our own.
Over the next 5 days, Colin, Kate and Sam will have to apply all the skills that they've learnt over the last 4 weeks in the practice barn.
I don't think this is going to work doing like this.
OK, take it down then.
This is the first time they've worked together, without Matt or Dave at hand to help them if anything goes wrong.
I'm sick of straw. Sick of it.
The only thing I'm very aware of, quickly.
What?
You're going to hate me for this.
What?
Is you're not turning. You're straight again.
No, I'm not.
Turns, Kate.
It's coming off, this one.
It's not coming off.
It is.
Just needs turning,
No, it's
Kate.
coming off. I'm not doing a rubbish roof, I tell you that.
Exactly what you want to do.
Oh!
It is
Although
hard.
we're getting better, we are understanding it more. You then realise that actually every little bit is completely different, isn't it? And every situation is different.
Yep.
At the end of the first day, Matt and Dave drop by to see how they're getting on.
There isn't a drop of thatching on there that would stay on the roof.
Not one bit.
Nobody's done anything that would stay on a roof for us.
No.
This is very much bread and butter work. You know, if you can't do this, then you cannot thatch a roof.
Oh dear. Two days later, and progress, of sorts, is being made. Well, there's definitely more straw on the roof.
2 inch between here and here, yeah?
As the deadline draws closer, working as a team and adhering to the precise requirements of thatch is causing some creative tension.
It's 2 inches. If you're saying that's an inch, then there's something wrong with your eyes.
You think it's 2 inches, and I think...
You think it's 1 inch
It
then?
doesn't really matter what it is, as long as we
You've got a
know.
fence bar there.
So where you put that stick, it's 2 inches from the top.
It's coming down.
But it's higher than this one. How many inches is irrelevant, it's higher. I just want to get it right, Colin. You know, charging ahead and cutting everything before we've even levelled it. We've measured it and you've gone around and moved it all. Haven't you? You've had it in line.
No, that's all right, Kate. That's in line on this side.
This is a team project.
Right, Kate.
I'm just stand around and do nothing all day, shall I?
Having resolved their differences, the team push on to try and finish the job.
That's it.
But while they may be pleased and proud of their work, as ever, it's what Matt and Dave think of it that's the real test.
Halfway through the week, it didn't look on the cards at all that we were going to be at this stage before the party started tonight, and I think you've done really well. I feel really proud of what you've achieved, and I hope that you guys do.
I am actually impressed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Whoa.
That's something coming from you, Dave. Oh, bad cop there.
With even Dave pleased, the trainees can now properly celebrate and are joined by their other halves to view the roof and join in with the village festivities.
I'm not living in that. It's better than I imagined. It's fantastic.
Well done.
Cheers.
Hey,
Cheers.
the
Cheers,
Colin.
Hello.
Hello. You got my roof? What, our roof?
Very nice.
I'd be happy if that was on our house now. Yeah. I think it's amazing. I can't get over it. It's good with these hands anyway. It's quite artistic.
It's good with the hands.
Maria, what do you think of Daddy's thatched roof?
Any misplaced belief that they crack thatching are brought back down to earth with a bump when they return to the practice barn for the start of their final training.
That's where you had a bad join there.
Yeah.
That's where you had a bad join there. I'd say what you need to watch now is just controlling your material, not letting it
run
away with you.
Having worked together as a team for the past week, the emphasis now shifts back to their own personal struggle with the straw in preparation for the final test.
I did spot something earlier.
Oh, what was that?
Have a little look under your eaves. Which kind of...
You have a look.
No, you have a look. What? Have you chopped them off? I can still see them, and there's gaps. You won't get away with it. You saw me looking earlier, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
With their training nearing an end, I return to see if they're still as committed to becoming thatchers as they were when we first met 5 weeks ago.
At the end of the 6 weeks, depending on obviously how good I've become and how confident I've become, if I'm confident enough that I can then take up an apprenticeship with someone and then go forward and work within the thatching industry, I know I'm not going to start thatching straight away, because you just don't do that. I'm aware that I'm going to have to really drop down in my wage structure. I'm going to definitely have to move out to the country, so it's going to be a very, very large step. But, you know, that's something I want to do.
It's really serious for you, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It is.
I'm going to do it.
Despite Kate's struggle during training, she still plans to thatch her own house as soon as she gets home.
Do you think that this sort of long apprenticeship is a bit of a myth?
think if somebody like me who comes along at my age and does it, you've got so much more maturity and so much more focus that you can just learn it quite quickly.
But at the same time, clearly, 6 weeks is not enough to equip you to tackle a roof on your own. And one of the things you've always done, see there you are, in your look, you're doing it. From absolutely the outset, you've made quite clear that you have every intention of doing a roof
So
on
I'm
your
going
own.
straight home to do my roof in my house, which is about the same size as this.
And you still don't think you'll be able to do it?
Oh, I see. I like that.
But for Colin, despite being an experienced roofer, things are more complicated. With a thatching apprentice earning under $12,000 a year, he's some tough decisions to make if he wants to pursue this as a career.
My situation back at home with family and everything else, you know, I've got another child on the way due in a few weeks. I need to have a regular income coming in, so I've got to carry on with, you know, the teaching job and my roofing business and everything else. So, you know, it's a real big decision for me to make. But I love this.
Colin's desire to become a thatcher could be part of a longer-term rehabilitation.
I spent, you know, 15 years of drinking, which you know, I didn't really get anywhere in those 15 years. 7 years ago, I, you know, decided to put it down.
What made you decide to do that?
It was killing me.
My knowledge of drink is that it's never a problem that goes away, it's one you have to face every day and deal with. So
I still do to an extent, because it's always there, it's always staring me in the face, it's, you know, there's always a temptation, but I know that if I did, you know, it'd take me back to square one again.
Right.
You know, so
but the point is, you've got the strength of character to do that.
Yeah.
You can deal with big, tough, difficult decisions. You proved it. And this could just be another one.
It could be just another one, yeah.
6 weeks ago, Colin, Kate and Sam had never so much as handled a bunch of straw.
You don't want any of that stuff, do you?
That stuff can come out.
But despite a normal apprenticeship taking 4 years, they've come a really long way.
From there to there is a bit of work that could stay on the roof.
Crikey.
Now it's time for their biggest test. As work on the cottage roof is coming to an end, Matt and Dave have left 3 empty strips for the trainees to thatch. Using the skills that they've learnt over the past 6 weeks and working alone and unaided for a day, they must attempt to seamlessly blend their work with Matt and Dave's. Whoever does this best will have the chance to continue their training alongside other master craftsmen working on the rethatching of National Trust properties.
I'm feeling terrified, because I want to cock it up.
I really want to win this. I think I can win it, but if I have a bad day tomorrow, I could totally hash it up.
It's not like I can't do it. It's just, will it go right on the day?
If their work is good enough, it'll stay on the roof, not only as a source of personal pride, but also as part of the long history of the cottage.
It's a real honour, really, to be able to lay a thatch on a piece of history.
This is now my final visit to my thatchers, and it's the same place where I first met them, up on the roof of the 800-year-old cottage. But whereas back then, they were just observing and didn't really know what they were letting themselves in for, I don't think. Now they'll be working and hopefully making a permanent contribution to the future of that roof.
Here we go. This is it.
Yeah. How are we all feeling? There's some nervous-looking faces.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Excellent.
Quite sick.
Quite sick.
You'll be fine. Once you get the straw in your hands and you get yourself into a rhythm, you know, you'll be absolutely fine.
Remember everything we've told you.
Easier said than done, Dave.
Panic and just do one bit at a time. Now, if you make a mistake at the bottom, regardless of how well you do the rest of it, it's all got to come off. You know, you're about to thatch someone's house. This is, you know, this is something that people pay a good deal of money for, and they're expecting a good quality job.
If that isn't pressure enough, their work is to be judged by Roger Evans, who co-runs the country's only thatching college, which is where Matt and Dave qualified. With experience of over 40 years, Roger's thatching expertise is unchallenged, so only the highest quality work will earn his approval.
When you're looking at their work here, what is it in particular you're going to be looking for?
If the work's wrong and not fit for purpose, as it were, it'll have to be removed. No room for error. Otherwise, maybe in a few years' time, your roof will leak. Yeah. Quite as simple as that.
Wish me luck. I'm going to need it.
Roger will be assessing them on the quality of their yelms and their fixings, as well as the density of material that they put on and how they blend it. And as this is a real job, he'll also be looking at how quickly they work, because the professional thatcher has to work fast to make a living.
I want Roger to see them and say, but these people have got some talent. You know, they've got some, you know, albeit raw, but they got some.
If they go up there and just look as if they haven't a clue what they're doing, you know, that isn't going to reflect well on us.
I feel like I'm being judged as much as they are.
2 hours in, and Sam is finding it difficult. He's not getting enough straw on the roof, which could affect the evenness of his coat.
The best I can hope for now, I think, is that Sam looks what he's done, notices there's a problem, and if he doesn't understand why, just take it off. Just take it off.
But before long, the others are making the same mistake.
I've got to take it off because I've got not enough density and it's all falling apart.
The bottom bit's so important, you know, the getting the sort of bed work right is absolutely critical. Tiny bit upsetting, never mind.
Throughout the course of this final test, Roger's eye remorselessly monitors the trainees' progress.
Sam's beginning to make another mistake. His fixings are now becoming too near the surface. Colin's coarse marks are beginning to show through. We're beginning to see lines across the roof where you can see each course is laid. Kate's been very, very cautious, but I think she will get there.
With a couple of hours left, I go up onto the roof to see how they're getting on.
So quite soon, this is going to be judged. And how do you feel about that?
Nervous, because I really do hope I've done a good enough quality strip to stay on the roof.
So how are you getting on now?
Was having a bit of a nightmare from the beginning. It's completely different from working on a roof within the barns. It's a great big dip there, and then it's solid there, and you'll find another dip. And when you're laying the straw on top of that, you've got to compensate for that. So you have to sort of build it up with straw underneath.
It sounds to me as though this is as much a process of learning.
Yeah, oh yeah, this is a learning, this is definitely a process of learning, because this isn't something we've come across.
And how have you been getting on with this strip?
Absolute nightmare. Had a lot of near nervous breakdowns, and it sort of knocked my confidence a little bit. And I was thinking, oh, and what it really highlights is that each an individual roof is so different, which makes me realise why it's a 4-year apprenticeship.
And now their time is almost up.
If they're going to get a strip up, they're going to have to work really hard. They're going to have to speed up incredibly.
After a total of 14 hours on the roof, it's time for Roger to deliver his judgment on Sam, Kate and Colin's final work.
Roger, it's down to you now.
May I begin with you?
Yep.
This is some of the main criteria that's actually important to a good finished thatched roof, okay? Thickness, very good. Good thickness. The pitch angle of the material, average.
Oh.
Evenness of coat, average again. Okay, on to Colin. Thickness, good, yes. Well done, well done. The pitch angle of the material, which again is important. I'm going to give you average there. because that did vary a bit from one course to the next. Evenness of coat, good. Sam, thickness I'm going to give you average. Fixings, it's not going to fall off, Sam, is it? Well done, well done. That's good. And the evenness of coat, I haven't given you any marks for that.
Right.
Your job was to choose one that you thought performed best and therefore could go on to take on this opportunity. Which one is it?
It's going to have to be Colin.
Right.
Congratulations. Well done, Colin. Congratulations.
Well done, mate.
Thank you, mate.
That's all right.
But that's not the end of the road. If you wish to carry on, any one of you is quite capable, I'm sure,
Brilliant.
of seeing it through.
And the final question, of course, which is going to put you on the spot. Are all 3 pieces of work going to stay on that roof?
I would advise not. Simply because it has to be tip-top. And I think you'll all appreciate that after a short period of training, it's not quite what it should be. We're talking of a duration of thatch here of probably 20 years.
Yeah.
For the sake of the thatchers, for the sake of the householder, for the sake of the industry. It has to be right.
Even though it's coming off, I do feel happy. This has been an amazing experience. I've had a fantastic time. I learnt to use another natural material.
It has been an accomplishment, but I haven't finished with it yet. You know, in a few years, hopefully I can come back down here and I can come and see Matt and Dave and say, oh, I'm qualified.
As a craft, it's been an amazing experience and something that I'll never forget, never forget.
It's a very interesting atmosphere as they're talking, because obviously they're proud of themselves. They have achieved an extraordinary amount. But it was very sobering when at the end they realised that it's all got to come off. And it makes you realise just how much work has to go in to make what looks like just straw on a roof. But they have got to the point where they can pursue it if they want to. And my guess is they will. Next time, we're taking a market trader, a museum educator, and an architectural illustrator into a forge to grapple with the craft of blacksmithing.
You go through hell trying to get it right, and then all of a sudden, one morning, it'll just click.
And whilst they struggle to shape metal, I attempt to create metal.
How will we know when it's ready?
By turning stone into iron.